Greetings and salutations. I'm the fallen angel Christopher Daniels.
Hello, yes, Danhausen here, to tell you, deliver a very nice, very evil message, if you will.
This is NXT superstar Dexter Loomis.
What's up, everybody? It's me, your buddy, your pal, Scott Stanford.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
This is the former intellectual savior of the masses, now known as Aaron Stevens, your NWA third-degree national champion.
This is Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, the role model, and you are listening to Greg Morgan with Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And I want to tell you, Greg, your buddy Howie, also known as Wheezy, as you call him, he told me all about your channel. I'm here to tell everybody that I've seen it, I've watched it, I've looked at it. I went down the rabbit hole and I couldn't get out of it. It was so good.
Yeah, you better watch this channel. You better watch all the videos.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
Watch them 5 times a piece. That's right, I said 5 times a piece. Do it. I know you've been a fan for like 40 years. I've only been doing it for 30, so I guess we're fans together there for 10 of it. Do it.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Do it!
Good Mic Work is the place to be for all your wrestling information, guaranteed.
The best wrestling content is right here at Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
Subscribe, share, love, like, poke, whatever you need to do.
If you don't, we're gonna have a problem.
Love that, Danhausen, love that Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Do it now.
You're welcome.
What's up once again, everyone, and welcome to another WWE Monday Night Raw review. This one is for December 21st, 2020, and the show just wrapped up a couple of minutes ago, and you guys tell me, best Raw of all time? Agree or disagree? Let me know your letter grades in the chat here, or number grades. I'm sure it's going to be all A pluses and 10s across the board. Just a riveting episode, just loaded with, compelling stories and great wrestling and lots of high stakes matchups. I mean, it's everything you would want in a wrestling show is what we got tonight. Just amazing Monday Night Raw. I'd probably say better than anything we saw during the Attitude Era, for sure, just from top to bottom stacked show. So let me know if you agree with me or not on that. I'm sure you guys do, and we'll get into reviewing this blockbuster show here very shortly. How you guys doing? Good to see everybody here that's kind of here waiting so far. Barry MK and Mr. E and Ethan and Deshaun, Domination Warrior, Martin Can, Sonic. All y'all are here kind of so far. I'm expecting a huge audience tonight because of how great Raw was. You guys are clearly understanding that this is highly sarcastic. This was a very, very skippable Raw. This Raw was garbage in a lot of ways. We got, a little bit of tease for some future stuff with Randy Orton and The Fiend. Other than that, just a lot of just random matches. People wrestled, people cut promos, and that was literally it. We didn't see any sort of drastic change in direction tonight, based on last week's terrible rating and in reports that internally WWE might be slightly in panic mode here and trying to make some changes and do some more adult-oriented content, as USA Network apparently has requested. And we kind of thought, based on last night, Orton and Fiend going on last, Fiend being burnt to a nice medium well, that that could kickstart some slight changes in the show that might, increase viewership and might increase interest and get the fans even somewhat enthused at all about tuning in on Monday nights. And even following up on a really good pay-per-view, which the wrestlers all came through, especially a couple of them just fought their asses off last night and gave us a really good TLC pay-per-view when these pay-per-views in December are generally kind of skippable throwaway shows anyway. Everybody came through, gave us a great show, and even following and on the, following a great show like that, the very next night, they can't even deliver anything special to us at all on Monday Night Raw. So much like a lot of the recent weeks on WWE, the shit is just going nowhere here. And in terms of the Raw storylines in the Raw title, it looks like, Drew McIntyre's next challenger is going to be Sheamus or Keith Lee or something like that with the dissension that we saw tonight. They're even teasing giving the Money in the Bank briefcase back to The Miz, which I will just die if they do that. Half of me will find it funny. The other half will die. And Asuka, and Charlotte did their thing tonight, but really, you can tell they sort of even planted the seed for their inevitable showdown down the road as well. But otherwise, it was just, nothing good on the show, literally at all. But we did get a couple of interesting announcements and things like that. So we'll talk about it as we go through. Yeah, I'm surprised too, Tantanani, that the McMahons were not on Raw tonight again, like they were a couple of years ago, to promise us that they're going to start listening to us and do what we want, all that bullshit. I think they thought better of that. And I think if they did come out and try to do something, the fans would have immediately saw through it and just booed them right out of the fucking building. So instead of just talking about it, actually do something. I'd rather make the McMahons and Triple H not show their faces at all and just get it done behind the scenes. Don't come out here and tell us anything and blow smoke up our asses, because we know y'all suck. So just get it done. Get it done. Ryan wrote, I agree, the playground segment was probably the best thing. And that was I mentioned that last night, and I put that on Twitter tonight as well. I was like, I'm not ready to see The Fiend back yet. Apparently, they are going through a repackage for him. Maybe not a full repackage, but a different look. I think he's still going to be The Fiend and all of that, but he tweeted out a picture of like a cocoon or something like that. Kind of made it seem like he might be doing a little bit of a change. So I think WWE is working on maybe a new look for him, and I wasn't ready to see him back tonight. I mean, we know he's going to be back sooner rather than later. That January 4th show was probably a good candidate for that. But in terms of tonight, I just wanted to see Alexa. I was like, we got to see Alexa Bliss. She hasn't been on TV since, Randy Orton held her and gave her to The Fiend and all that. So she's kind of been absent. I think tonight will be a good night to have her come out and then save The Fiend for, the beginning of the year, which apparently is what they're doing. So that stuff was pretty good. And it kept the ball rolling there. And we said that last night, even after The Fiend got burnt alive. I said, what's probably going to happen is they're going to come back and do one more match, and The Fiend will win the blow-off. That way, it keeps Randy strong, keeps The Fiend strong and fresh with a potential new look, and he'll put down Randy Orton to kind of end the feud. So I can almost live with what they did last night, because it was, somewhat cool. They burnt a human being alive. That's kind of nice. So it's nice for the holidays, isn't it? So I think that leaves a possibility open, and that's kind of their top storyline right now. I don't really give a shit what Drew McIntyre is doing at all. And based on what we saw him do tonight, come out there and read the Christmas poem and stuff, like all that stupid, ridiculous material that was given to Roman Reigns in promos when he was a babyface, it feels like that's now transferred over to Drew McIntyre. And every time he comes out there, it's just cringy shit. That stupid spot that they keep running over and over with the 2020 monster and McIntyre like beating his ass. Can't you see that exact same segment going down with Roman Reigns if it was 2 years ago? I can. So it's funny that he's kind of moved into that role that Roman was in. Maybe Drew can find, eventually be what Roman is now and be more of that ass kicker at some point if he ever goes heel. I'm sure he will again one day. So other than that, man, I don't know. We'll go through, like I said, we'll go through the results here, but there's not a whole lot of meat on this bone, that's for sure. And Barry, you're right. Thanks for the $2. I feel like nothing means anything anymore, and it does not. It doesn't mean much. And this time of year never does. I mean, I've been on YouTube for many years now, and every time around November and December, shit just gets shitty. It's just not good anyway. So, when you combine that with crappy booking during a crappy time of year, it's just amounts to shit, I didn't even know that. Was it Braun Strowman voicing Mr. 2020? That's funny. Yeah, I saw a couple of people mention that to me on Twitter. They didn't announce a House of Horrors match. That's just what we're thinking. Is that right? Yeah, I think a House of Horrors match is probably likely, especially since they've done one before, and that was the one where Randy Orton burned the house down. All signs point to The Fiend putting down Randy Orton and whatever the blow-off gimmick shit will be. And House of Horrors sounds likely. Could be a good Rumble match, I think. Not sure if they could stretch that to Mania or not. Probably not. That sounds like something penciled in for the Royal Rumble. But then again, I'd like to see Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt in the Royal Rumble as well. So I don't know. I don't know, Ronnie Matthews. I thought they had already done that. How long will it be before Jackson Riker turns into just Jackson or Riker like Riddle? I kind of thought it was happening tonight because Elias, I think on the mic, kept referring to him as Riker. And I was like, did they drop the Jackson or whatever? But then the announce team was kind of calling him Jackson Riker. But yeah, it's probably not going to be long. Something like Riker is probably the right call. Jackson seems like a name that my friends back in the South would have named their son or something. So I'd rather have it just be Riker, a little more badass. Tonight's show was a grade of an F. Yeah, I'm going to agree. Hopefully there'll be a decent audience in here tonight. Do me a favor, smash the thumbs up button too, and subscribe if you want to hang out here for more reviews in the future. And if you're having trouble watching Raw, you can just skip the whole fucking show. Watch me instead. I will fill you in. But a couple announcements before we get into the actual results here. Number one, rest in peace, Kevin Green. Kevin Green, former NFL football player, and he had a small stint in WCW in the late 90s on Nitro, has passed away today at age 58. And according to all of the reports that I looked at, I couldn't find a cause of death anywhere. So there's no news on if this was, if he was sick or suffering from something, or it was a freak accident, or, something unexpected happened. He was pretty young, and and an athlete and in pretty good shape. And I know he's been coaching in the NFL and stuff in recent years. I wasn't aware of any sort of medical issues or drug abuse or any sort of problems at all with him. So that kind of came as a shock. And plus, he does have that connection to professional wrestling. And he was a character, man. I remember him with the Steelers and even played a few seasons down in my old state of North Carolina when he played for the Panthers. And I think he won some Defensive Player of the Years down there and stuff. And he was pretty awesome. And he was just a character. He was like just one of those guys in the NFLs that had the personality, had that charisma. He was a trash talker and shit. Other guys like Clay Matthews and others, I think, have tried to emulate that in the NFL, but nobody's really come close to what Kevin Green did. And he fit right in. He fit in a lot of ways better than Steve McMichael into wrestling. McMichael kind of had that, that charisma as well, and he liked to run his mouth and shit. But, Kevin had a little bit more intensity to him than McMichael did. And, I wouldn't want Kevin Green chasing after me, where McMichael seems a little bit less intimidating, if that makes any sense. But, I thought he fit in well there. And if he would have pursued more of an actual wrestling career and got in the ring and trained and all of that, probably could have been pretty decent and might have been even better than Mongo, who was not very good at all in the ring when it came to that. But kind of sad news today. So rest in peace, Kevin Green. That's a shame. It'll be interesting to see what exactly caused his death. It's pretty sad. Other than that, tonight on Raw, we also got an announcement for a big January 4th Raw. It's going to be the first Raw of the new year. I didn't realize it fell on January 4th because that's, of course, the date of Wrestle Kingdom. So they have stacked this show up as a Legends Night. So this is WWE's answer to the ratings. They know, maybe they know these holiday shows. There's not a whole lot they can do short term because this week is, right before Christmas, and then next week is still kind of part of that, holiday week and all that shit. So maybe they're not expecting huge numbers for those shows, and maybe they're just going to wait and try to pull something out of their hat on January 4th. But like, how many times do they have to do this? Like, what is it going to take for them to learn that you can't just stack up a Raw with Legends in an attempt to spark a rating, because what does that do? It just gives you a good rating for 1 week. It doesn't fix anything. It's a temporary Band-Aid or a temporary fix on a much, much larger gaping wound that they have. And it's going to take a hell of a lot more than a Superman Band-Aid, to close up and stop this bleeding. And so this is just silly. It seems like a waste of time. And, based on what we saw at The Undertaker's retirement at Survivor Series, what are these legends going to come out and do? They're going to come out to the ring one by one and then just leave and not say a word. I'm sure we'll get a couple of silly backstage segments with some of these guys where there might be a couple of things in the ring. Maybe two legends will beat the shit out of, two J-Brones on the roster, or fucking Miz and Morrison or something like that. But other than that, what are they there for? What purpose are they going to serve other than just nostalgia, which, don't get me wrong, I love, and I have no problem with legends being on the show from time to time. If the ratings were up and there were no ratings issues right now and WWE announced a Legends Night to kick off 2021, I'd be cool with it. They've done Raw old schools before and stuff, never really was a problem. But this seems like it's such a clear, such a clear response to the bad ratings that it's almost just laughable. Forget about the fact that you're creative is in the shitter. Forget about the fact that you got the most boring fucking booking, in the history of the wrestling business, when you have arguably the best group of talent that this business has ever seen, in its 100+ year history, and you still can't figure out what to do with it. So your answer is just to bring in a bunch of fucking people that used to work there? Like, what is that going to solve long term? Not a goddamn thing. And I don't understand why they don't see that. And Legend Raws can be fun. I'm not against them, and for the fans that like to say, oh, there they go, relying on the legends again, this isn't like that. These guys aren't setting up WrestleMania matches. None of them. So it's not like, Taker, a lot of these guys coming back and, building, a WrestleMania around the legends. This is just one Raw, so it's not a big deal. If Hogan and Flair set up an angle and they're going to wrestle at WrestleMania, then we might have a problem. But other than that, for them just to come out there, say a few things and be gone in 1 week, whatever, but I still think it's transparent as hell, what they're doing, and it's not going to work. They have so many bigger issues right now than this. And right now they need to worry about, attracting the right type of audience. I mean, I know, the big story last week was AEW beat all three of Dynamite beat all 3 hours of WWE Raw in that key demo, not an overall rating, but in the demo. And that's nothing to kind of just shake off. That's kind of a big deal. Everybody's like, oh man, AEW's ratings are shit compared to TNA. Wrestling's ratings are down in general. Look at what the WWE's ratings are compared to when they were on up against TNA. So in relation to each other, this is the closest anybody's been in a while since WCW to competing with WWE ratings wise. Yes, the numbers aren't as high. Yes, TNA drew double what AEW is doing, but the ratings are down by half or more than what they used to be back in those days. I'd say more, actually. 1.5 WWE drew last week. So I'm really interested to see tomorrow what the ratings are for this shit show. And in terms of that 4th, on January 4th, the legends that they have listed here, this is what I've got. Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Kurt Angle, Beth Phoenix, Tori Wilson, Big Show, Jacqueline, Booker T, Sergeant Slaughter, Tatanka, Jeff Jarrett, Jimmy Hart, Ivory, Carlito. All right, whatever. The Boogeyman, again, what the fuck? IRS, condolences, IRS. His son, of course, perished last night in a tragic arson murder at the hands of Randy Orton. We also have Melina coming back next week. There was talk that she would resign with the company, and then she never kind of appeared. So we'll see if it's a one-time deal for her or if we'll see more of her after January 4th. Mark Henry will also be there, Alicia Fox, Hillbilly Jim, and Michael Hayes. So what are they going to do? Kind of interesting that Hogan is there because January 4th is the date of the debut of the TNA show back 10 years ago, or 11 years ago now, in 2010 when they went head-to-head with Raw. That was on January 4th. So was the Finger Poke of Doom, also involving Hulk Hogan on Nitro when he got the belt back from Kevin Nash. So that's kind of interesting there, and the fact that it's over the Wrestle Kingdom nights. Now, Wrestle Kingdom is January 4th and 5th. It's always a 2-night event, so I'd have to look at the time. I'm guessing it's going to start, like, for me, probably midnight on the 4th, so before Raw. So Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 will happen, and then we'll have Monday Night Raw, and then later on, Night 2 will happen. So Raw, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong with my scheduling here, my Raw, I believe, will come in between the 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom. And that's kind of cool that WWE is maybe can give us a good show to kick off the beginning of the year or not, but if we're going to have awesome 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom with this strange-ass Raw stuck in the middle, it could be a fun 3 days of wrestling. We'll see. It's going to be a lot of wrestling, though. A lot of shit to cover. But we'll see. 2021's a new year, and we'll hope for the best in terms of that. JJ Leg, thanks for the $5, dude. Hey, Greg, with The Miz losing the cash, do you think Money in the Bank needs a break or a rule change where the winner holds until they cash in? No 1-year rule. Maybe, I don't know if they need to tweak that up too much. I think they just need to, they don't need to change any rules. What WWE needs to do is have a better idea of where they're going in the future. And that's one of the biggest problems with them is they have no future plans anymore. They can't think that far ahead. So a lot of times when they book these Money in the Bank winners, They just book them now, and they're like, well, maybe they'll be in position to win the title, maybe not. And then, last year it was at the Stanford office, and it was all weird, and Otis won, and that was so random. Like, Otis, can you see him cashing in on anybody? Wouldn't that be just totally fucked up? WWE realized that too. Then they gave the briefcase to The Miz, who unsuccessfly cashed it in last night, but it was Morrison that did the cashing in, so now they even teased tonight that Miz could get the briefcase back. But I don't think a rule change needs to be made more than WWE's, just creative direction needs to be changed. Like when they book these Money in the Banks, plans never hammer out, if you plan shit 6 months ahead, but just have an idea, just some sort of a germ of a fucking idea, please, of where you want to go, and maybe base your Money in the Bank winner on that and start just making shit up on the fly. And I think if fans are getting a little bit tired of the Money in the Bank, or they feel like this year was a really useless year, that's because WWE just didn't know what the fuck they were doing with it, and they never seem to anymore. So I think next year we could get a better year, and I think it's okay to not have successful cash-ins all the time. I think that's perfectly acceptable. So the fact that you can have some unsuccessful cash-ins a time or two here or there, that makes it less predictable when they do cash in. So I just think they need to get better all around with that type of shit. You know what, Victor Colon? I think if Hogan took a bump, he'd die. So I can't see him taking a back bump, but that would be cool. They should have. Where's Kevin Nash, dude? Where are you? Get Kevin Nash in there too next week, and or on the 4th, excuse me, and have the finger poke with Hogan. But he's going to have to be very careful falling to the mat, or he will break every bone in his brittle ass body. So that would be funny if they did a spoof on that, though, for sure. Life of Brandon made it. How bad was Raw? It was pretty bad. So we're going to make the best of it here and try our best just to talk about it and not fall asleep. I even had to open up a beer tonight just to try to get through this nonsense. But anyway, the January 4th show looks like it could be interesting. We'll see if they do have all these legends there and they use them in a fun way. Just use them in their fun, like when all those legends were being announced for The Undertaker's retirement, we're like, cool, BSK, Savio Vega, all these guys, they came out of the ring and did jack shit. I don't need to hear their entrance music. I don't need to hear Real American, and then that's it. Give me more than that. Give Hogan and Flair in there doing something funny. Hogan and Flair, arguably the two best ever. How many more times are they both going to be in the same ring at the same time together before one of them fucking croaks? So, you can have something there where they can, have a good segment, a well-written, fun segment, that might incorporate some current stars, and playing off the legendary status of both or something like that. And you combine that with, you better book some sort of a title match on the show, WWE title match for Drew McIntyre, possibly even, Riddle and Lashley or something for the U.S. title. And you have The Fiend return. That's when I think the legends can add some spice to the show. If you already have a really good card with some good matches and some somewhat intriguing storylines, and everything flows good with the current stars part of the show, and then you have the legends there just to kind of add to it, that's when I think they can help. But when you're bringing them in to rely on them to get you this rating, then that's when I think it's a big mistake. So I'm not going to, throw in the towel on the January 4th show yet. I think it would be extremely unhealthy to look at the upcoming year after the shitty one we just had and to have any sort of cynicism towards it. I think it's best to look for the best and look forward to and hope for the best going into 2021, and we'll see, but I think the beginning part of 2021 is going to be a lot like 2020 in terms of, just everything that we're going through. But, I think by the time we get to this time next year, life could look very different. So try to remain positive as best we can. We'll see, what happens on the Legends Raw. Yeah, and Flair just being out there at all has been annoying all year. Even when the COVID stuff first happened, remember how mad we all were? We're like, why the fuck is Flair there? And technically it's much more dangerous now being out and about and traveling than it was when COVID first started, when we were all really freaking out and staying inside. Now it's 10 times worse in terms of the risks you take going out. Everybody you come in contact with, 1 out of 5 people you walk past has this thing. So it's just even worse now. So Flair being there, anybody being there, is, who's older, is a big risk, especially with Ric Flair, because he's had so many health issues recently in the past couple of years. He was on TLC last night watching a gorilla, watching Charlotte make her return and stuff. So he might be around a lot. We just haven't seen him on TV. He might be backstage at every show for all we know. We'll see. But anyway, enough wasting time. Let's start getting into the results of Raw, because this ain't going to take long. We opened the show with Charlotte and Asuka. That was kind of advertised tonight. They said that we were going to open with them. That's cool. We saw Charlotte back last night. I thought she looked fantastic in the match, because she took the 6 months off to get the work done. You can definitely tell she looks in great shape. She looked a little bit leaner or smaller. I think you guys know what I mean by that. And I just thought the Queen looked about as good as she's ever looked. So I was happy to see her back. She's a main event player. She's a star. That's not going to change no matter how much you bitch about her. And as long as WWE doesn't overexpose her, shove her up our asses and all of that, I'm fine with it. But I'm going to be the judge of that, because Charlotte can't even appear on TV. She's been back for 24 hours. And the fans are already saying she's overexposed. You can't be overexposed in 24 hours. So I will be the judge of when I think she's going to be overexposed. But you can see it already starting to begin here with the announcement that she's going to be on the Friday Night SmackDown. Now, I'm going to give them a pass on this. I know before fans were all mad, well, she's on all 3 shows and shit like that. She is a tag team champion. In storyline and in the rules, she has the right to jump to both shows. Nobody's bitching that Asuka's on 2 shows. It's only Charlotte. Asuka's been on TV a lot more than Charlotte lately. So the fact that they're both going to be over to SmackDown this Friday, I don't think is the end of the world. It is a holiday show. I believe they got a Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns cage match planned that I saw them tweeting about today, but I'm assuming that's for Friday, but it could be another week. So if you do that match and then you have Charlotte and Asuka defending the tag team titles, you have more Christmas-themed shit. It could be a fun holiday show. So I'm not necessarily against this. She's a tag team champion. She can go wherever she wants. It's not a big deal. If she is on Raw and SmackDown, for 3 straight weeks, then, I kind of understand. But she's been back 24 hours. Don't get your panties in a bunch quite yet. Plus, Raw needs more women on their roster. Asuka literally has no challengers at all. There's nobody that can realistically challenge Asuka for the title. And they would kind of tease that here with Charlotte. So Charlotte opens the show, says the Queen is back and yada, 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 introduces her tag team championship partner, which is Asuka. And then Asuka's very happy. Asuka's always just so fucking happy. And she hugs Charlotte and they're talking about how dominant they're going to be and things like that. And then Charlotte kind of looks at Asuka and she goes, so about that Raw Women's Championship, and it sounds like she's going to request a friendly challenge to Asuka to get a crack at the title, and then she's interrupted by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who come out, and they say they're talking shit, they're making excuses about their loss last night, and then Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke come out. Now, prior to Charlotte coming back and prior to Lana being written off TV, I thought Nia and Shayna were going to beat Asuka and Lana, because Asuka and Lana had won all the matches up to this point. I thought they would retain at TLC and then move on to potentially drop the belts to Mandy and Dana. You need more fucking tag teams. Everybody likes Mandy. Dana, I think everybody appreciates kind of her hard work and attitude, even though she's not really everybody's favorite. So I wouldn't be against that duo becoming champions. I'd prefer it be Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, but Mandy and Dana, it gives them both something to do. It now adds a team, an actual team that WWE will just break up anyway, but at least it's a team for the time being. And put the belts on somebody new and give some other women a chance to hold gold. And I'd much rather see Mandy and Dana be tag team champions than the Iconics be tag team champions. So I wasn't really against that at all. But then they come out, and I guess they've got a match planned with Nia and Shayna Baszler, and they talk some smack, and we go to commercial. We come back, and we've got the match. Asuka and Charlotte stick around. They hang out at the commentary table to do some guest commentary. Not only is Asuka, I think, better than anybody else on the mic. She's better than anyone else on commentary. Asuka's better than JR. She's great. The way she was calling those moves so quick, so fast. She's a regular Asuka Soli. That's what we should be calling her. So that was kind of fun. But in the end, Shayna Baszler grabs Dana Brooke in the Kurafita clutch, chokes her out, and then Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler get on the mic and they start talking shit to Asuka and Charlotte, who are still at the announce desk. And then Nia and Shayna are attacked again from behind by the losing baby faces, and Mandy and Dana take them out. And that was the end of the segment. So we'll see how long. I was kind of thinking that they would probably pull the trigger right away on like a Shayna and Nia implosion. I really don't want to see them regain the titles. I've never really been a fan of the team. I liked it at first, like the first 2 weeks. I thought it was funny because they hated each other's guts and they were talking smack to each other. And Shayna's like, "Fuck you, I hate you." You're like, I kind of like that. I thought it was funny, but they eventually, grew to be on the same page, much like the Bar did. Sheamus and Cesaro were at each other's throats, and then they turned out to be a great tag team. I missed the Bar, actually. So I think they might be running with it for a little bit longer, and they might even get a title rematch against Charlotte and Asuka. Wouldn't be surprised there either. We'll see, but at the end of the day, I kind of want them both to go their separate ways and stay the fuck out of my face. Would be nice. Not Shayna, but definitely Nia Jax. In terms of who they're facing this week, I don't know on SmackDown. I don't think they made that known who Charlotte and Asuka are going to take on and defend the belts against. I didn't see the opponents. But one thing I hope happens is that WWE lets Asuka get the fall, get the submission or the pin, because Charlotte has gotten them in their first 2 matches together, including tonight, because they'd be in action later on. So that was the end of that. The opening segment was really not good. I was happy that they opened with the women, but these promos, man, are so awful. God, it's the most cringiest fucking shit. When Mandy and Dana were out on the ramp with the mic, I'm like, I don't even want to hear it. Like, whatever you say is going to be stupid. I like you both, but neither one of you can cut a promo for shit, and I just don't want to fucking hear it at all. And because, it's going to be lame. It's going to be shit that was written for them, and it's just going to be terrible because everything they fucking write is terrible. It's so goddamn terrible. But anyway, that was that. We then move on to, probably aside from Alexa Bliss on the swing set, probably my favorite. I'm reading a text from my mom. Excuse me. Oh, all right. My favorite segment of the night was this one, the VIP Lounge with the Hurt Business. Now, I have been saying for weeks that I really want the Hurt Business to win the tag team titles, for the main reason, just for me personally as a fan. I want to see a promo with the Hurt Business all decked out in their suits, all with the belts spread across the faction. I think that would look awesome, especially since I'm worried that they're going to take the belt off of Bobby Lashley. I wish they would not, but I worry that they might. So I wanted to get that visual while we can. Of course, the Hurt Business won the tag team titles last night at TLC against the New Day. So we get the big VIP Lounge now. They come to the ring. They're walking backstage first. They pick on a little ring crew guy and fuck with him. And then they get out to the ring for a VIP lounge, and MVP's doing his thing, and he's talking about how great they look. And they do. They all look awesome. I mean, me and the Hurt Business, we're pretty much the same guys. I feel like I'd fit right in with them. So they're all there and bragging about everything, and then MVP has brought in a photographer because he wants to get a big group photo. So that's what I was waiting for. When MVP was like, "We got a photographer, we're going to take a photo," I'm like, yes, this is what I was waiting for, to see these badass looking dudes all with their belts. Even Cedric was cracking me up tonight because they're still planting the seeds that he's going to be kind of a loose cannon in this crew, and he's 100% going to be the cause of them losing those tag belts, which will probably happen sooner rather than later. People don't have long runs anymore. So something will happen there, and I think Cedric's going to be ousted, or something's going to happen to start the beginning of the dissension in the Hurt Business. But I want to keep the Hurt Business around. I actually do like them. So they get the photographer in there, and they all pose with the belts in the ring, but then behind him, the camera pans up and you see fucking R-Truth. He's standing on the ropes behind them, also smiling with his 24/7 title, which is just a hilarious visual. And I just love R-Truth. I said tonight on Twitter, if I got a lamp and a genie came out and she said, "You can have one wish and one wish only," I would not wish for $1 billion. I would wish that R-Truth lives forever, because he is a goddamn national treasure. Had me cracking up. They turn around and see them and like, what the fuck? And then he jumps down because the 24/7 jobbers start chasing him around, and he leaves or whatever. And that's when Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy come out, because they've got a match, a tag team match later on with the Hurt Business. And as they come out to the ramp, you see the train of jobbers going behind them into the entranceway there. That actually kind of was funny. Got a chuckle out of me. And Riddle went on to actually kind of make me laugh a little bit. Some people find Riddle, tough to like and stuff, but I don't. I think he's kind of hilarious. I think that when WWE's shitty writing tries to write material for like a stoner character, it's never going to come off very good. I think they should probably let Riddle just be himself or something like that. If this was RVD, I can't imagine RVD delivering lines like this. He would be a much more convincing type of stoner. But Riddle he basically tells them that they're always mad and they should just chill and hang out in the backyard and get a little toasted and kind of, he all but says smoke weed without saying smoking weed. And he goes, and maybe listen to the Joe Rogan podcast. I am not surprised at all that Matt Riddle listens to the Joe Rogan podcast. It tends to be kind of a thing amongst us potheads. But he talked about Joe Rogan and then said he might watch a Dave Chappelle comedy special or something like that. So that was all kind of funny. And that was kind of the end. What happened? Did they get in the ring and brawl or anything, or was that just it? That was it. They didn't wrestle till later on. So that was kind of a funny promo. Love the R-Truth stuff, and Matt Riddle had me cracking up just a bit. After that, in the most random ass match you could ever ask for, out of nowhere comes Angel Garza. He's back, tries to present a rose to Misty Carmichael at Gorilla, and he's got to wrestle Drew Gulak. These guys have been on Main Event, I think. I wasn't aware of any issue between these two. And you talk about just picking two names out of a fucking hat and throwing them in the ring on Raw. That's what this felt like. And the match wasn't even very long. Just went, 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes? Angel Garza wins with the wing clipper, pins Drew Gulak, and that's it. So he won. Yippee. And he's still handing out roses to people. Like, we need that. After that, we got Miz TV with Miz and Morrison, and the guest is going to be AJ Styles. He was interviewed with Omos backstage prior to this, and he's got that gnar gash on his cheek there. And I remember he got a gash on his other cheek a few years back at TLC against Dean Ambrose when his tights were ripped and half of his bloody ass was showing to half the world. That was pretty funny. This is a different cheek this time, and got a little cut up there. And he says he's pissed at The Miz for coming out and cashing in the briefcase because it fucked up his opportunity and all of that. So Miz and Morrison are in the ring. Their guest is AJ Styles. They bring him out. And AJ blames The Miz. He blames him for what he did, and The Miz actually admits it. And he starts to get a little emotional. He starts to cut like that talking smack Daniel Bryan type of promo for a minute and says that he knows it was his fault. He's been waiting for 15 years, to be champion. And 10 years ago, he was champion once before, main evented a WrestleMania. He's been working his whole life for this, and it all got flushed down the toilet. But as a sign of good faith and to show his remorse, he's going to offer AJ Styles a part in the new Marine movie. And he goes, and we got a poster made, and they show the new Marine, and it's a giant picture of The Miz with a tiny little picture of AJ behind him. And AJ's like, "You can barely see me, man," or whatever. That was kind of funny. And that's when Omos is the voice of reason here. He's the one that points it out. He goes, "Hey, Morrison is the one that cashed in the briefcase, not The Miz. You should be blaming Morrison." And I was like, I couldn't even read my own writing. I'm like, what the hell did I spell? I had a little spelling error there. So Omos is the one that brought that up. And it was funny, last night, I had left the room only for 15 seconds. I left the room, went downstairs during the match. When I came back, Miz was in the ring, and the commentators kept saying that he cashed in the briefcase. So in my notes last night and in the review, I said that Miz came out and cashed in the briefcase. I didn't see Morrison do it. I had no idea. Some people pointed it out to me on Twitter today. And I was like, oh, fuck, Morrison was the one that did it. I didn't know that. So Omos brings that up, and AJ and Morrison kind of jaw-jack with each other a little bit. And AJ says, "You want me to give you the Thunder Cookie?" I've never heard Thunder Cookie before, and I think it's my new favorite phrase. And that's when The Miz starts alluding to the fact that since Morrison cashed in the briefcase, it says in the rule books that only the briefcase holder can cash it in. So technically, he should still have the briefcase. After everybody seemed to be relieved that briefcase was kind of out of our lives, it might be coming back into our lives. Why would they bring this shit up if they weren't going to do it? And with all of the shit The Miz was doing to try to take the briefcase away from Otis, he got that done. So why can't he get this done? And I wouldn't be surprised if fucking Miz is carrying around that green box by the beginning of the year. Ay. We might have a lot to talk about next week after Monday Night Raw too, because next week, by the way, is our year-end Q&A. Monday Night Raw review first, and then we'll go right into the Q&A. So send your questions over to goodmikework@gmail.com if you want to participate. Otherwise, just be here live and ask me in person. That's 1 week from today, by the way. So after Miz kind of thinks he should still be the briefcase holder, that's when Drew McIntyre comes out, and he's by himself. He comes down to the outside of the ring, and he starts reading the Nightmare Before Christmas or some fucking poem, and he reads a couple of lines, and then you hear Sheamus's voice reading a couple lines. He comes in from the timekeeper's area, and then we hear Keith Lee reading a few lines, and he's on the other side of the ring. So now you got all three of them. This is your 6-man main event for later on, by the way. Lee, Sheamus, Mac against Miz and Morrison and AJ. Excuse me. So they then kind of surround the ring, kind of shield style, and and kind of corner all three guys there. They get in the ring, a brawl breaks out, and that's when Lee and Sheamus accidentally have some incidental contact there. I think so. Morrison or Miz or somebody shoves Keith Lee, and then he just bumps into Sheamus. And then, of course, they're all in each other's face. And it's something that I absolutely hate because they always do this. Why are wrestlers not allowed to accidentally bump into each other? It's a fucking contact sport. If you're watching a football game, you see that shit all the time. Sometimes linebackers just smash into each other by accident, and teammates, they don't start fighting in the middle of the fucking field. I am in the restaurant business. I have been in it forever, and there's a lot of tight corners, and when anybody's in the restaurant, you always say corner or behind as you're coming around a corner. I literally slam full blast 35 miles an hour right into coworkers nightly at work. This is a regular thing. I've had food spilled on me. We're all in a hurry. We're all running around, and sometimes you can just smack into each other. We're still friends. We still have beers together and shit. We don't start brawling right there in the middle of the fucking kitchen. I think it's just a little bit unrealistic that every time partners have to bump each other. Well, what are you doing, man? All Keith Lee had to say is, hey, that asshole, The Miz, kicked me and I fell into you. It's all good. But, and then Drew has to get between them, and then you have got this dissension, and WWE acts like this dissension is such a big deal. What's going to happen in the main event tonight? Can these guys get along? Hey, WWE, I got news for you. We don't give a fuck if they can get along. We don't care. Have Lee and Sheamus make out in the ring or be at each other's throats. Either way, I'm cool with it because I don't give a fuck. This match is meaningless. There's no stakes. There's no reason to even have this 6-man main event. Drew as the champion, why does he even give a shit? He's the champion. He's got bigger fish to fry. I wouldn't even worry about it if I was him. Other than just my own health and safety, of course, you want your partners to get along. But they act like it's such a big deal. And if a simple bump causes a team to implode, by an accidental, oh, sorry, I just ran into you. Like, how the hell do you expect them to get along? And there's a bunch of dissension on the heel side, too, because AJ's all pissed at The Miz. So shit's a mess. And I didn't really care about which team got along, which team stayed on the same page. I didn't give a fuck at all. So it was a meaningless segment. The only thing interesting coming out of that was when Miz hinted that he could still get back the briefcase, which he better not, because what are you going to do with it? You're not going to put the belt on The Miz if in 2021 prior to WrestleMania, You better not. You better not. Hello, Sex Machine. A-Level, good to see you, man. Appreciate the $10. What's up, Greg? Been a long time. Hope all is well. Happy holidays. Same to you, man. Welcome back tonight. I'm glad you're here. And happy holidays to everybody, by the way, because, of course, we got the Christmas holiday coming up, and we got New Year's coming up, and there's all sorts of shit going down. So whatever you celebrate for the holidays, I hope you're having a great one. And this actually will be, you won't see me again prior to Christmas on the 25th. I won't be back up here until Saturday. And we're not even going to do a Winged Eagle. I'm not like, tonight's Raw sucked. Friday night SmackDown on Christmas night might be okay, but it's not going to really provide us with a ton of stuff to get into on the podcast. And generally during holiday weeks, unless someone dies, God forbid, the news is also pretty light. So I was not expecting us to really have much to talk about this Saturday. So instead, we're going to do a live stream instead. I got a Patreon-sponsored live stream that's in queue, and it's going to be just a live stream talking about my top 10 favorite tag teams of all time. That will be a fun Saturday stream to do in lieu of a podcast, and then we'll just pick things up back to normal next week on the year-end Q&A. And that's the plan for the weekend. So keep a lookout for that on Saturday. That's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get back to the results here, though. What was next? Oh, yeah, we had T-Bag taking on Ricochet, and Retribution is still really trying to get Ricochet to join their team. Again, I don't know why they fucking care about Ricochet so much. I would just let it go. I don't want anybody to join my faction that doesn't want to be there, but they are obsessed with Ricochet. It's a little bit scary. T-Bar, of course, beats Ricochet clean in the middle. Ye winds up cutting a promo on him after the match, saying that Retribution is not his enemy, and he needs to either join or die. He said, join us or we will end your existence, which means die. So they're threatening to kill him. There's a lot of murder and an attempted murder going on WWE right now. Murder, attempted murder, and threatening murder. After that was when we got the Hurt Business and Hardy Bros match, and I believe it was MVP and Lashley taking on Matt and Jeff. Lashley taps out Jeff Hardy for the win with the full Nelson, and that's really all there is to say about that. Hurt Business looked badass. Even in the promo in the VIP lounge earlier on, MVP or Lashley had said, he goes, there's nobody that can take this title off of me. And, you guys have been listening to me for the past few weeks. I've been advocating hard for Bobby Lashley. This is their last time, the last chance they're ever going to have to make this guy into a serious competitor and a serious star. And I think one way to kind of do that is to keep him rolling with the Hurt Business and have him smash everybody into an unstoppable United States title run that lasts at least until the summer. Even pitching the idea of him going into SummerSlam to get a title shot as the U.S. champion. I really would love to see that for Bobby Lashley, but they're also almost making you think that Riddle might wind up taking the title off of him, but I hope not. I love Riddle, but I think I'm just more on the Lashley bandwagon, at least right now. I just really want him to do well. So if they drop the ball here and he drops the belt in 3 weeks and then he does jack shit for the rest of the year, he can just call it a career, because I just don't think there's any coming back from that. Where right now he looks tough. He's the most believable he's ever been in terms of like a tough guy, because even though he has the look, he's always just been really nice. He's got that nice inviting face and that smile, and he doesn't look like a killer, but since his alliance with the Hurt Business now, that's changed a little bit, and I'm almost a little bit scared of him now, which is great. I've never felt that way about him before. So keep running with Bobby Lashley. Don't have him drop the title for a while. Just don't. What's wrong with putting somebody on a winning streak? Like, what's wrong with that? Having some guy just, build and build, to where eventually they, get a big time world title shot and potentially even win the belt. But WWE moves so fast. I feel like they'll give Lashley those opportunities before that time, and then he'll fall short or whatever. Wait until you're in position to put the belt on him. Because if you do any title match with Lashley between now and WrestleMania, I don't think he's in position for a world title run right now. So don't give him a title shot now just for him to lose. Like, just have him keep rolling. Keep him away from the title picture. Just keep having him successfully defend that United States title over and over and over again. Along with some tag matches with the Hurt Business to help spread it out a little bit and keep him undefeated until July. What the fuck is so hard about that? Seems like a very reasonable request, and one that would make sense given his track record and what a badass he is. So WWE's refusal to do that is probably going to disappoint me, but we'll see. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed for Bobby Lashley. I'm glad. Oh, good. My son Luigi DeRaw is here. Nice. Yeah, Brandon, you're right. Yeah, Hurt Business is a little bit like Fortune in TNA. They're a little horsemen-like too, out there in their suits and shit. They got a little horsemen in them. They definitely got some horse cocks. I'm kidding, but you know what I mean. It's true. Barry MK 400, thanks for the $5 again, dude. Hey, think you can do a video for me on my birthday, January 30th? Don't know what it's about yet. Sure, that's the day before the Royal Rumble. That's gonna be a Saturday. That's gonna be my Royal Rumble predictions day. Yeah, I can get it in the can beforehand. Would it disappoint you if I uploaded it like the day before, just so I can spread it out and I'm not doing 2 videos in one day? Yeah, give it some thought. Let me know. Ethan, year-end Q&A is 1 week from tonight. I was going to do it like on the 30th or the 29th, but then I was like, in order to maximize viewership and get everybody here, and when people are used to watching me, we should just combine it with a Raw review. So if Raw sucks next week, we will blow through it quick. We'll just knock those results out in the first 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll have a good time. We'll kick back. I'll have a ton of questions that I'll pull out of my email here and have all set up, and then I'll just continuously answer them in the chat. I'll answer all the super chats, and it'll just be a fun hangout. I'll open a couple of beers, maybe some more Stone Cold IPAs. I'm not drinking that tonight. I'm drinking Alpine Indian Pale Ale tonight. My girlfriend's sister got me this for Christmas. It's pretty good. But yeah, I'll crack open some Broken Skulls next week and we'll have a good time. Oh, Lashley would be a fun Money in the Bank holder. He would. He would be a fun Money in the Bank holder. I just think with Lashley though, I just want an old school title match to be earned. You know what I mean? Like you know how they do it now, like when they don't have an opponent for anybody at SummerSlam and they just make a whole series of matches on Raw and then the winner's facing a match and then the winner of that gets the title shot. Like, I don't want to see a scenario like that. I want to see somebody being built up, working their way through the ranks to where you just get a title shot, or something. So I'd rather see it more, kind of framed out like that than a Money in the Bank. Because Lashley, again, he's a badass. I mean, Brock was the Money in the Bank briefcase holder, and he came and won the belt in a shitty way. So it's not like badasses are above taking advantage of a situation and cheating to win or anything like that. I just would like to see Lashley beat somebody the way Brock beat The Rock at SummerSlam 2002. Just beat him. Just fucking beat him. Full Nelson, tap out. I'm the new goddamn champion. Period. I don't know what's so hard about just booking somebody to win matches and then win the title. That's the way it used to work. Seems like WWE's scared shitless of that idea now. Yeah, Victor, I'm kind of with you on that. I think it's going to suck next week, too. Next up, we had an Elias promo. Elias is back with Jackson Riker again, and they've been together now a couple of weeks. And Elias goes on to say, he's got Riker with him now, and, he's there to prevent people from interrupting. But just like the very first week he showed up to try to prevent people from interrupting, somebody interrupted. And then same thing tonight. The Lucha House Party interrupted before Elias could even do anything. So Jackson Riker is worse at his job than the stupid fucker he voted for. But he finally does, he has a match now. It's actually his first match in the ring in quite some time, because the dude's huge and strong and jacked. He looks like somebody that Vince would like, And they have a match, Riker versus Gran Metalik. The only thing funny about this is that during the match, which was very short, Elias actually gets up on the corner with a guitar and starts playing the guitar during the match on the turnbuckle. That was kind of funny. He winds up getting brought into the ring. Gran Metalik jumps up there and hurricanranas him into the ring. And that was just enough to allow Riker to recover, capitalize, and hit him with his finisher or whatever the fuck and get the win. So Riker picked up the win there. I like the fact that Elias has somebody with him, because I've been complaining about this with Elias for years, whether he's a heel or a babyface. Somebody interrupts him in every single song he's ever done on Raw. You could probably count this up to about 200 times now that this has happened to him, or at least 100 times, that he's just out there, he plays for 5 seconds, somebody interrupts him. He needs a bodyguard to whoop someone's ass, but so far he's not doing a very good job, because even though he's out there with Elias, he's, how is that preventing somebody from interrupting him? He can go out there and whoop their asses and stuff, but they still do the interrupting. What he needs to do, what Elias needs to do, is get more than one bodyguard and position one of them at Gorilla to make sure if anybody comes out, he can stop them and neutralize them, and position one on the outside of the ring by the commentary table to make sure nobody jumps the barricade. And that's what he should do. So Elias, I think you need to find a second guy to be your second bodyguard. You need 2. Like Baron Corbin's got 2. Why can't you have 2? I think he needs 2. So Elias, get 2. Otherwise, nothing's going to change for you, my friend. After that was the top of the hour, and we get the Randy Orton promo. Been waiting for this, and like I said earlier, I was concerned when we heard that we were going to hear from the Viper. I'm like, I hope they don't make this the final segment, because I was thinking it would be a situation like the Undertaker. Undertaker's been buried alive twice. He's been burned in caskets, and he's been beaten in boiler room brawls with Paul Bearer turning on him. And in each and every one of these situations, the very next night, almost on Raw, he shows up. In most of these cases, he shows up and he rises from the dead and he's still alive and stuff. But with the Fiend, once we got word, once Fiend tweeted out that, teased that he was going to be undergoing a transformation, I thought tonight would have been way too fast. So the fact that he didn't come out to close the show gave me a sigh of relief, because I was like, okay, cool. What we're not going to see the Fiend, but what we are going to see is Alexa. I was 100% convinced we were going to see her. So Randy Orton gets in the ring. Like I said, somehow he's avoided jail time for this. This was attempted murder or murder. Even if Bray Wyatt didn't die, I think Randy Orton's looking at 5 to 10 here, especially based on his track record. And then he goes on to, not only talk about his crimes of last night, but talks about how much he liked it, how much he enjoyed the smell of the burning flesh. This guy's insane. He needs to be locked up. Randy Orton needs to be locked up, or he legit will kill somebody. And he says the Fiend is no more, and he is the evil son of a bitch that took him out. And nobody is more evil than Randy Orton. I actually liked all of this. And that's when the lights went out. Lights went down. Randy Orton jumped on the outside of the ring, looked like he's looking around, and they come back on. And the entire ring is now filled up with a playground with a seesaw and a swing set, and Alexa, little child like Alexa, is swinging on the swings. And I knew we'd see her. We haven't seen her in a while. And she asks if Randy wants to play. and get in the ring and wants to play and swing on the swings with her. And then she's like, I wonder where the Fiend could be. And you kind of see Randy looking around like, oh shit. And she says that, Alexa says that he's home now underneath the layers and layers of earth, alluding to the fact that he's buried and gone, but you never know when he'll come back. And he could be back before you know it and all that shit, and kind of teases that to Randy Orton. And then I think all the lights go out, and that was the end of the segment. So Alexa, again, does fantastic in her role in this, and she looked pretty funny there talking to Randy Orton. And the fact that, she was fearless enough to do that, I wouldn't put anything past Randy Orton. He just burned a motherfucker alive last night. What's to say he can't just decapitate Alexa Bliss right there on national TV based on some of the things and the crimes he's already committed in his life? So I think that Alexa showed a lot of bravery going face-to-face with him like that, and she teased that he would be back. So I think January 4th is a likely date for that, combined with the Legends Raw and possibly a title match for Drew McIntyre. I think we can see a new Fiend debut and come back and attack Randy Orton. That will set up House of Horrors or whatever else they do, potentially at the Royal Rumble or wherever. Or they could keep Bray Wyatt off TV a little bit longer, maybe past the Royal Rumble. I think that would be a bit too long, but then bring him back after. That way he can have the House of Horrors match at Fastlane or Chamber or whatever the fuck, just to allow Randy Orton to compete in the Rumble. Maybe they do that, but I think January 4th would probably be a good spot to see the debut of this new Fiend look. He's still going to be the Fiend, likely be the same overall character. I think the Funhouse will still exist based on the way Alexa was dressed and how she looked tonight. But he might just have a new take on his monster, which might be a nice push of the reset button. I'm never going to get over, ever. I will be 100 years old, still pissed off about Goldberg beating the Fiend in Saudi Arabia like that. So this could be a nice fresh start. See if they can start again and not fuck it up this time and do all the dumb shit that they did with him last year, with him being buried and disqualified or whatever Seth did, and the no finish in the Hell in a Cell, followed by the Goldberg loss and all that. It was just ridiculous. So maybe this can be a new, fresh beginning for him. We'll see. And if he wraps up his feud with Randy somewhere in the beginning of the year, I wonder what that means for the Fiend heading into WrestleMania. I think the Fiend will win whatever blow-off match he has with Randy Orton. Seems like he just has to. So if that's the case, who does he go into WrestleMania to face? Does he get a crack at the title? Does he face somebody else? I don't know. Who could be a good opponent for him? Randy Orton seems pretty much the perfect guy for him to face at the moment in terms of matching his sadistic nature and stuff. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Alexa Bliss tries too hard, and I actually thought that that Su Yung or somebody like that would be better suited for a female in Bray Wyatt's little world there. We were all talking about, I thought it would be somebody like Ruby Riott, Nikki Cross, someone like that kind of matched that dark, demented stuff. But you also have the Firefly Funhouse on top of this as well. And I think not only is Alexa Bliss done well, but she is fit into that like a fucking glove. You're not going to hear too many people complaining about Alexa Bliss and her role. I don't know where you're getting trying too hard from, but she's doing fantastic. She is not trying too hard at all. It seems like she's doing this pretty effortlessly, if you ask me. So I totally disagree with that. But I do see your point on having somebody a little bit more sinister and demonic, being like an Abaddon or something would be great, with the Fiend, where more Alexa maybe fits into the Funhouse stuff. But I also like how they incorporate her in the ring. Like every time she's that, funny childlike character, it still manages to creep out the opponents. Even Randy Orton, after he just lit a motherfucker on fire last night, seemed legitimately off, a little bit unsettled by Alexa Bliss's presence. And to me, that's awesome. So Alexa, to me, has found her niche completely. Jeff Hardy facing the Fiend could work, but I don't know. Jeff Hardy, just in where he is on the card right now and his staging of his career, I wouldn't consider him to be a credible challenger for the Fiend. Maybe in a random match, something on Raw, something on one of the shitty in-between pay-per-views, but in terms of WrestleMania, I think the Fiend's opponent needs to be much bigger than Jeff Hardy. Can someone ask Greg for me if he would ever start doing reactions to like other reactors due to the old WWE? I've thought about doing that. I'm just so nervous to do that with the copyright shit. I know with a lot of these reaction videos, it's fine. A lot of the other big YouTubers do them. And maybe I will do that. I've actually thought about that in recent months. I've just been so hesitant to record a video with any, WWE footage on it. But I think that all falls under fair use and shit, but it doesn't stop the automated stuff on YouTube to catch you and, and damage your channel or anything. So I've just been a little bit hesitant. But based on how some of the other YouTubers who are much bigger than me doing stuff like this, I'll probably be fine. But it's just nerve-wracking, That's not horrible. Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Fiend and Alexa. That could work. I'd be into that. What do we have next after the Randy Orton and Alexa Bliss bullshit? Oh, yeah, we had Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce taking on tag team champions Charlotte and Asuka. Not much to say about this match. Peyton and Lacey are together for whatever stupid fucking reason. They don't seem to get along very well either. But why even break up the Iconics just to put them both with tag team partners? You got Peyton with a new one and Billy looking for one on SmackDown. Stupid. But anyway, Charlotte and Asuka win. Of course, Charlotte taps out Peyton Royce. And like I said on Friday, WWE, I dare you, double dog dare you, let Asuka get the finish on Friday. She's part of that team too, if you haven't noticed. And she even happens to be Raw Women's Champion, I believe. Even more reason, right? And after that was the main event. We had a big 6-man tag that nobody gave a fuck about. Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Keith Lee taking on AJ Styles, Miz, and Morrison. And it was a holiday street fight. So they had all the fucking holiday shit out there, tables, Christmas trees, food. They had these big, long candy cane kendo sticks out there, all sorts of stuff. So they're all beating the shit out of each other, of course. Sheamus and Keith Lee do have some dissension. You see some dissension on the other side as well. A lot of pushing and shoving from both teams. AJ Styles gets power bombed through the table. The candy cane kendo sticks are in full force, and everybody's being whacked with those. In the end, though, Keith Lee pins the Miz. I think he actually hits. Does he hit the spirit bomb? I don't think it was Big Bang that he hit. I think it was a spirit bomb on Miz. Gets the pin, and then after the match, due to the dissension that they already had, as the babyfaces are celebrating, Sheamus comes in out of nowhere and bro kicks Keith Lee, sends him down. Drew's all pissed off. What are you doing? I told you I'd handle it and all that. And, a lot of arguing and anger as the show goes off the air. So we've got a potential here for Drew McIntyre and his next opponent. The only problem is we have a lot of weeks until we get to the Royal Rumble. There's a long time. So I feel like this could wind up being a deal where it turns into a triple threat at the Royal Rumble, because I think a triple threat would almost be more intriguing than, it sure would be more interesting than Drew versus Sheamus. And Drew versus Keith Lee wouldn't be interesting either unless Keith Lee goes heel or something. But then a triple threat match also keeps Keith Lee out of the Royal Rumble. Most likely, maybe not, but most likely he wouldn't be in that, which I also think would suck. But if WWE has no plans for Keith Lee to win the Royal Rumble, I'm fine with him not being in it. I'm fine with him not being in it. I'd rather him not be in it than be thrown out by fucking Grand Metalik or something. So if he's not going to win it, leave him out. No big deal. Keeps the door open for somebody like Big E or somebody interesting to actually win the Royal Rumble. So that could be what this leads to. You could see Keith Lee, you could see Drew kind of defending Keith Lee at first, but then Lee gets mad that Drew is still remaining loyal to his friend Sheamus, and there's all this dissension. Next thing you know, all three of them are at each other's throats, and that's when you set up the triple threat match at the Royal Rumble. That could happen. At this point, it seems like the most likely option, because he's going to be involved with these guys somehow, unless AJ Styles stays in the mix and, I don't know, we got a 4-way or something. But I think we're also likely to see a WWE title match on January 4th. So we're likely to see that ahead of the Royal Rumble. So we might get Lee, Sheamus, and Drew on that night, or we might get some sort of a Drew, McIntyre, and AJ Styles rematch, potentially with The Miz involved as well. I think something like that is probably likely for January 4th. And I think that should be like kind of mid-card, not even the main event, because whoever Drew, if he does defend the title on January 4th, he's beating whoever he faces. So just have that at the top of the second hour and save the Fiend's reveal for the main event segment and have the Legends open the show. Legends, top of the first hour, WWE title match, top of the second, Fiend debut closing the show on January 4th. That's the way I'd book it. We'll see if I turn out to be right. Keep smashing that thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. Get them likes up for me. I'd really appreciate it. And anyway, that was the end of the show. That was it. So the end of Monday Night Raw. Like I said, not really much to talk about. Like I said, there wasn't too much, forwarded storyline wise here. Alexa alluded to the fact that the Fiend will be back, which we already knew that. WWE announced a big show at the beginning of the year. Nothing was really set up here too much for McIntyre or anything. This is just throwaway, all of it. 3 hours it took me to write notes for a bunch of shit that didn't matter at all. That's Raw for you. That's why I'm here, to keep you guys from having to suffer and watch that nonsense. I kind of agree about Keith Lee. I really, really like Keith Lee, and I think WWE is horribly misused him since he's been there, like they do with everybody in NXT. So imagine that. He came in after SummerSlam. So he's been there 4 months, and they've already exhausted him as a babyface, where there's nothing left for him to do. Talk about taking it slow, So I think that Keith Lee turn there would be a fun little swerve, since fans are expecting Sheamus to be the dirtbag. And Keith Lee has even accused Sheamus in recent weeks of not staying loyal to Drew and all that. So Lee, I think, being the one in the end to turn, could be good. Could be good. Peace out, Mr. E. Take care. Yeah, 3 hours of nothing. As a matter of fact, an hour and a half halfway through the show, because I remember it was the bottom of the second hour, 6:30 for me, local time here. We had only had 3 matches. Because that opening shit took a while. Then we had that tag match with the women. Then we had the VIP lounge. That took a while. Then we had Garza and Gulak, which was only a couple of minutes. Then we had the Miz and Miz TV segment. That took a while. And then we got followed by another quick match, T-Bar and Ricochet. And that was about halfway through the show. So we had 3 meaningless matches. Garza Gulak, T-Bag Ricochet, and the women tag match to open the show. That was all we had. And I think in total we only had, 5, 6, 7. We had 8 matches, I guess, on the show tonight. 4, 5. Yeah. That was 7 matches, I think. Anyway, took a while just to get a few matches in. We went halfway through the show with a lot of nonsense. Just a whole lot of nonsense, a whole lot of nothing. We'll see. So way to go, WWE. Way to bounce back from these horrible ratings from last week. I think maybe they were just assuming they were going to get a decent rating anyway. Because that's the thing. Tomorrow, the ratings might not be bad. Because that's the thing people have to remember. A bad show will not reflect the rating for that night, usually. Because people are, tuning. It usually affects the week after. Next week might be horrible because we saw a bunch of shit tonight, and who's going to tune in? Last week we saw a bunch of shit, but I think tonight gave people a reason to tune in, since it was all over the internet that Bray Wyatt got burned alive. So I think enough people were at least had curiosity about that, and maybe tuned in to help the ratings at least stay a little bit steady, or maybe not get any worse than last week. I predict that as bad as tonight's show was, they will not have another record low. I think they'll beat last week's, but not by much. Just not by much, but they'll beat it. I can't see them doing worse than this, following a pay-per-view that had, somewhat of a cliffhanger ending. Oh, don't worry, Brandon. Don't you worry about Santa. You got to remember, Friday Night SmackDown airs on Christmas Day. So that fat fucker will be out there ho-hoing his ass all over that WWE ring. I have no doubt about it. I'm sure they'll do a deal where it's a wrestler disguised as Santa in order to attack somebody or something like that. Or they'll put 2 people in Santa costumes and make them fight. Maybe R-Truth shows up in a Santa costume. I don't know. Whatever they do, it'll be stupid. Well, that's good, LG Anarchy. You only see highlights. That's all you need, man. For a show like this tonight, all you need is highlights. I mean, this is an easily watchable show on YouTube. Just catch the clips and you will get all you need to know. And you can knock out a 3-hour show in about 11 minutes. So it's much easier to do that. I do that most weeks for SmackDown. If I'm home, I tend to watch SmackDown, but usually I'm working. So when I'm making my notes for the next day's podcast, I usually just cruise through the YouTube highlights and make sure nothing too crazy happened. And then if anything really interesting happened, then I go to my DVR recording and I find it and I watch what I need to watch. But, for the most part, I just kind of jot down some shit and I'm like, yep, that's that. Lately, I've been watching Roman promos in their entirety and stuff. But other than that, blow through it. I don't know. Reducing the number of pay-per-views is definitely something they should do. But I don't think they'll ever go down to 6. That's too far. Even with the Saudi shows in between, I'm hoping they never go back there either. I hope that relationship is over, but it'll likely pick back up once the world gets back to normal. But I think we're at least a year off from even having to worry about that. But I think 12 would be as best as we're going to ever get out of WWE. My only one major issue that I have is, like I said, dropping the gimmick pay-per-views, get rid of TLC, get rid of Hell in a Cell, and don't do 2 pay-per-views between WrestleMania. I find that's one of the more infuriating things that they do, is the fact that we have an Elimination Chamber and most often a fast lane leading to WrestleMania. You don't need that shit. You don't need 2 of those, man. You're leaving yourself no time to build for Mania at all. So I even don't want one in between. If it was up to me, it would be Rumble, and then you have all those weeks to build Mania. All that time to really build it, have fun with it, and just really, put some creative effort into things. But WWE doesn't do that. They just book them, just day by day, flying by the seat of their pants, pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view. So I would like to reduce the amount of pay-per-views between Rumble and Mania and go down to 11 or 10. 10 would be ideal for me. Skip the pay-per-view between Rumble and Mania and skip the pay-per-view in July. Maybe the Money in the Bank and SummerSlam. Have a long stretch there to really build your SummerSlam card. And I'd love to drop December. I've talked about that many times. I did a whole video about 2 years ago about pitching the month of December to be WWE's annual off season. 1 month. That's it. That's all I'm asking. Give everybody off, nurse nagging injuries, spend time with their families for the holidays, come back refreshed and ready to rock and roll at the beginning of the year. To me, that seems like an extremely reasonable proposition that could be done technically if you really wanted it to, but TV contracts, USA Network and Fox paid for those live shows every week, so you got to do something. You can't just not have Raw on. You can't just not do a pay-per-view. You can't just, when there's no COVID, you can't do live events. You can't not do those. So WWE would never do that. It's just, man, I think it would prolong and help the talent. It would increase their careers, and it would give them something to look forward to. And if I'm a WWE star and I'm traveling my nuts off, killing myself every day, airport, rental cars, hotels, no sleep, Taco Bell for dinner 5 nights a week, and you're just on this grind, when you got to around September and October, I'd really be looking forward to that upcoming month. It's almost vacation time. It would almost like refresh you. When you're coming up on a big vacation, your energy picks up a little bit. I'm like, oh my God, it's almost here. It would even help them to finish out the year strong. Survivor Series can be your final pay-per-view of the year, and then December is off. You do a Slammy Awards one night, not like the shitty Slammy Awards that they're going to do Wednesday that I will not watch because I just think it's stupid and it's shoehorned and phoned in and doesn't mean anything. But if you do it the old school way, and you rent a banquet hall, you have everybody dress up in a tuxedo and evening gowns, and you do a whole Slammy Awards during the month of December, that would be so much fun. Put that on Raw, make it 3 hours long, make that a Raw for 1 week. And then on the other Raws, you can just play replays or old shows or, recaps or year in reviews or whatever the fuck you want to do, and let all the talent have off. Just bring them back for one night, all of them, to dress up and be a part of the Slammy Awards, and then go right back home to their families and come back at the beginning of the year. None of that seems illogical at all. But yet it's something that the WWE never in a million fucking years would do. And that's what's annoying, because to me, it would make such a world of difference, especially for the talent. Yeah, WWE could even tape shows in advance, but I'd rather them not even do that, because if you tape shows, then the results, and they're going to draw shitty ratings. I just think you can have 3 or 4 Raws and Mondays, in the month of December, where you just do a recap show and you do a slam. You can knock out one of the weeks with a Slammies. You can do a 2020 in review show if you want, one of those weeks as well. And then the other 2 weeks, just come up with something, just figure something out. Give NXT Monday nights, or something like that. They don't, they're not on the grind as much as the main roster talent are. Let them take over Monday nights in December or so. I don't know. There seems like there's a lot of options you could do to continue the money machine rolling, and you're not going to be sacrificing any profits. I think there's ways to get around that, but WWE they're not going to do that. King of the Ring, I'd love to see brought back, but lately they've been kind of doing it on TV, which I hate. I'd rather see it be a pay-per-view. Or maybe it be like a semi-annual pay-per-view, something they don't do all the time. But then we have a lot of gimmick pay-per-views. When I say drop the gimmick pay-per-views, I really only mean TLC, Hell in a Cell. Those are the two that drive me fucking crazy. And Elimination Chamber as well, but nowadays, Elimination Chamber is kind of being used like the Rumble because there's two titles now. So Rumble winner gets a shot, Elimination Chamber gets the other shot. So I can live with the Chamber being where it is, although if I had my choice, I'd take that away too. And then just when you have a situation that calls for a Chamber or calls for a Cell or calls for a TLC, then just book it. I want a Hell in the Cell match, at SummerSlam again. I mean, we did have one at WrestleMania in recent years with Shane and Taker, but I want to see a Hell in the Cell at Backlash, or Judgment Day, or like they used to do it. So that's just when it made it better, because then you can have an issue and a storyline and you can let it build and run. And then when it gets intense enough to where you need a certain match like that, you can just book it instead of having to worry about where that match falls on the camera or on the calendar. Excuse me. All that does is limit your creative freedom when you have shit like that. All that does is make it more difficult, for this crackpot team of morons to write shit that they already can't write. And now they're intentionally placing obstacles in their way, in the way of their creative direction. And to me, that's extremely stupid, but it's what they do. I've had a lot of Rumble predictions lately. I think I've said all along my two top, I don't know if they're predictions, my two top hopes would be like Bianca Belair and Big E. I think they're both primed and ready. But then again, I'm not one of those people that thinks they have to win the Royal Rumble, and because fans have no attention span, they have no memory, they have no nothing. So when the Rumble happens and then their person doesn't win, they get all up in arms, but yet you still have the Chamber the next month where your person that you want to win could very well win. So I don't give a shit really who wins what. When I'm thinking of the Rumble, I look at that in terms of a WrestleMania title challenger. So Rumble, Elimination Chamber, one or the other, Big E winning that. I would love to see that. And then, like I said, Bianca Belair to me would be the best version. I'd love to see like Bianca and Bayley in the last two, and Bianca tosses her over. I can see Charlotte winning the Chamber. I don't think Charlotte will win the Rumble 2 years in a row, although she might. But I'd love to see somebody like Bianca, and then maybe Charlotte will win the Chamber. Charlotte's getting a title shot at WrestleMania, 100%. So, is that match booked for Friday? Okay, so we do have a big Christmas show then. We got Big E, IC title match, and I'm guessing we have Owens and Roman in a cage as well. Is that right? And then we have Charlotte and Asuka defending the belts as well. 3 title matches on Christmas night. That's kind of cool. After I cancel next week's podcast, thinking there's not going to be much to talk about, and we're going to do a live stream instead, there might be a little bit to talk about with the Christmas night Raw. We'll see. Yeah, Rhea would be a great Rumble winner. I would like to see. She was the one I was trying to remember. I had another girl in my head that I couldn't think about. I think Rhea is better suited for the Chamber. Kind of like Shayna Baszler ran through everybody last year. Rhea Ripley's already had performances like this at War Games and in Survivor Series and shit. So I think that, and plus she's just a little bit more like kind of badass hardcore of a chick than Bianca Belair. Not that Bianca's not tough. She could whoop my ass. But, Rhea seems to like and thrive on pain and chains and steel and spikes and blood and shit like that. So it's what she likes. So I think Rhea would be a better candidate to win the Chamber, and Bianca would be a better candidate to win the Rumble. If you reversed it, it's not like that wouldn't work. It's just, I think it would be better the other way. Bianca winning the Rumble just feels more natural than that. I love Sami Zayn. I want Sami Zayn to hold the Intercontinental title until the year 2026, unless he faces Big E. If he faces Big E, I want Big E to beat him because I love Big E. Hey, there's a good idea. Let's see the Fiend in a tux. How funny would that be if he came out in just a tuxedo with some weird new mask? That would be creepy as shit. What's up, Randall Yates? Good to see you. Appreciate the $5. Man, I'm so happy to see your channel grow the way it has in the past few years. You seriously deserve it. Well, I appreciate it. I haven't been growing that hard this year. 2020 was an extremely down year in terms of numbers. But we're still plugging along and still got a great, good core audience that is here with me every week that I love very much. And I appreciate it. Oh, and thanks. And we got a new sub in Kazmakan, or Kamzakan. Yeah, see, that's the thing about I think about a scenario in the chamber like that. You were saying if Bianca were to win the chamber, have her eliminate everyone like Shayna did. And even though Bianca is a badass, she doesn't come across as the same type of badass as a Shayna or a Rhea Ripley. So that's why I think those women are better for those, dominant performance inside of a demonic structure. Where Bianca is too, she's too charismatic. She's too bright and colorful, and she dances and twirls her hair around. She doesn't seem like somebody that can fucking roll her sleeves up and tear somebody's eyes out, even though I think she could. That's why I think Rumble is just better for her. The chamber and having a dominant performance like that is better suited for someone like Rhea Ripley, I think. Plus, I'd like to see Ripley involved too. I mean, if it's not going to be Asuka and Charlotte, I think they can do Asuka and Charlotte prior to WrestleMania. So if I said Charlotte's going to get a title shot at WrestleMania, she might be defending the title at WrestleMania. That might be another very, very likely option. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get Asuka and Charlotte at the Royal Rumble, and then to have Ripley win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber, setting up a Charlotte and Ripley rematch that's likely going to happen in Tampa, where it was supposed to happen last year. I think would be a nice story, but there's only one big condition to that. Rhea has to pick up the win this time. And I love Charlotte. I defend her. I think people who don't like her are idiots. But even I know that the right thing to do in that situation is to put Rhea over. So if Rhea does any of those things, then yes, 100% she needs to put down the queen and get that win back from last year, especially with some of the stories that we heard about, the Raw creative team cock blocking NXT when Charlotte was working with them and stuff and, not cooperating, things like that. So, that all, I think contributed to, Rhea losing that night and all of that. Not that it mattered. The empty arena performance center WrestleMania was shit and forgettable, but this would be a much nicer moment for Rhea Ripley if she was able to come back full circle in the same arena that the match was supposed to happen originally, do the whole thing again, this time beat her. What a rub. Beating the queen at WrestleMania like that, that's going to be a big deal. And you could save Rhea. You could salvage Rhea, if you did that. They salvaged Asuka when everybody thought she was buried. Oh, we're just go back to NXT, quit, go to Japan, put in your notice. All that shit was said about Asuka when she lost to Charlotte. It was the worst thing in the world. She was ruined, buried, dead, never to be seen again. She's been champion like 3 times since then. So that's wrong. And I think with Rhea Ripley, it's the same thing. You can bounce back from these questionable booking decisions. Let's just say that. So I think I have too much respect for people like Asuka and Rhea to think that one match buries them. I'm not fucking stupid, and I know that's not the case. So I think Rhea can bounce back and beat Charlotte this year, and that's what should happen. And if that means that Charlotte's got to beat Asuka on the way to WrestleMania, fine. Beat her clean. Beat her hard. I don't care. Just go into WrestleMania and drop the belt to Rhea Ripley, and all is right with the world in my mind. So it'd be a big rub for Rhea, especially if Charlotte, beats a dominant champion like Asuka and then goes into Mania and faces Rhea and loses. That'll be a big deal for her. Rhea beats the Queen and the Empress in the same night. That would be crazy. You could do Asuka, Charlotte, Rhea Ripley. You could. But I think Asuka, like just the way the speed at which WWE moves now creatively, I just feel like that Asuka and Charlotte match is going to happen way before WrestleMania. But I mean, they could do it again. They could do the one-on-one at the Rumble and then insert her or whatever into that match. That could be done as well if they need something special for all 3 of these women to do. But if Charlotte beats Asuka for the title at the Royal Rumble, which I think is likely, and then heads into WrestleMania to potentially face Rhea Ripley, that would be great. If Rhea Ripley isn't called up and there's no NXT person introduced to the women's division on Raw, then I think you've got to hold out and do Asuka and Charlotte. And like I said, unless, you bring Becky back, which I think is just hugely unlikely, but I suppose technically could be done. So yeah, Rhea getting involved is very likely. So if Charlotte and Asuka face, Charlotte wins, she faces Rhea, you need to give something for Asuka to do then in the meantime. And we've already seen her battle with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax, so that shit has run its course. Maybe you can give her a brand new opponent somehow. Maybe a dream match with Io Shirai. Hell, if Io drops the belt to Raquel, we could see Io join the main roster ranks sometime between now and WrestleMania as well. So you can maybe keep her in the conversation, possibly. Hey, Chris. Hey, you have a Merry Christmas too, man. Appreciate that. Do I think Vince will have another empty Mania? I think they're going to have to play it by ear. I don't think there's any way to know that right now on December 21st. I think the hope is to have it in Tampa. It's not going to be here in LA, which I'm extremely relieved about. So they're going to be in Tampa for that. And I think they will put some fans there. I think I don't know how they're going to do it. If it's going to be I mean, they're already in a very big stadium in Tropicana Field there. So it's not like you need to go to Tampa and risk an outdoor show and risk doing a Thunderdome out there. And what if it starts raining and, fucks all your shit up? I don't know. They're already in a big arena. They could just reconfigure Tropicana. Well, shit, by then baseball is going to start. Never mind. But at least for the short term, with Tropicana Field and the Royal Rumble, they're in a baseball stadium again by accident. I really liked this new tradition that they've been doing, putting the Royal Rumbles in baseball stadiums and making the entrances in the dugout. I think that's really cool. They can do that for Royal Rumble. It's going to be at Tropicana Field, I'm sure. So I think they should reconfigure the Thunderdome, maybe make it bigger, put a second row of virtual fans up there, and actually move the entranceway to the dugout and make the Royal Rumble set look very much like it has in previous recent years. They can do that based on where they are. If they're lazy with the Royal Rumble and it looks exactly like Monday Night Raw, I'm going to be disappointed as hell because they have the ability to make it look cool, and they better fucking make it look cool. But in terms of WrestleMania, I think they could just have it in Tropicana there if no fans are there. But if they can have some fans, then put it outside. NFL's doing that. There's some people in the stands and stuff. So maybe a limited type of audience. And in Florida, of course, they don't care what the fuck you do. So you can have kind of a limited audience, maybe combined with a virtual audience. Not sure how you would do that. If you'd have one person followed by 3 virtual screens followed by another person, it might look weird visually, but it would provide you, some extra crowd noise and things like that. And you actually hear them reacting to things in the ring, along with WWE's piped in nonsense. They might be able to create a workable atmosphere and a much better one than we got last year at WrestleMania. Just looking back to that now, oh my God, what horrible timing with that COVID hitting so close to WrestleMania where they didn't have time to build a Thunderdome. They didn't have time for this idea or anything. We didn't know what was going on, and they had no choice but to just do it the way they did it. So this year has no choice but to be better. And I think as of right now, yeah, there will be at least a limited amount of fans there. A packed 80,000 seat stadium? No, I don't. Not even in Florida. But I think that there will be enough fans there to, possibly salvage this into not a bad WrestleMania. And then 1 year from then, I think we're back balls to the wall. 2022, I think the stadium will be full for WrestleMania. I do, based on the vaccine and everything that's going on. I think we can be to that point in 2022, which maybe, they'll bring WrestleMania back here to LA. And if that's the case, I'll be there, and I will be there all week. And you guys can come. We can do meet and greets. We can hang out. We'll do all sorts of fun shit. And meet up with other YouTubers and all that stuff. So if they bring WrestleMania to LA in 2022, I 1,000,000% will be there unless we get hit with some crazy pandemic or I die. Otherwise, I'm going to be there. My ideal opponent for Roman at Mania, I don't know. I want to say Big E because he's on SmackDown, but he's probably going to be Intercontinental Champion. Most likely in the beginning of the year, and maybe it's just not in the cards for him yet. So I think Roman needs another big opponent, and there's another guy that we keep forgetting to mention right now, and that is Brock Lesnar. Brock hasn't been back since WrestleMania. I wouldn't be surprised to see him back for this year, and Roman and Brock would be a match that I would be open to seeing because I want to see Roman do what Brock used to do. Roman won the title when he returned, and so we're all under the assumption that he'll just hold it, go on a tear, have an awesome run, go into WrestleMania, drop it to somebody. I think there's a good chance Roman keeps it. I think Roman keeps it just like Brock used to. Brock's entered a couple of WrestleManias where we expected him to lose, and he didn't. So Roman could do that. Roman could face Brock Lesnar. It would actually, the fans would be, for the first time ever, be really happy when Roman beats him. And, I think back to WrestleMania 34, the way Brock put Roman down when we all thought he was going to win, and he kicked out of 78 spears or 78 F5s, but in the end, he still lost, and he was all busted open and bleeding and left laying in the middle of the ring. I'd like to see Roman now turn around and do that to Brock Lesnar. But then again, that's 2 big-time losses and ass-kickings that he's taken back-to-back at WrestleMania, and not sure if they'd want to do that either, because you can still, I think Brock losses can still be a big deal, provided he wins in between some of those losses. But it would be an instant story if Brock comes back, because now his arch rival, a man that he spent years, feuding with and having wars against. Now he's got the same advocate and manager as he does. And that's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. I think they have a chance to be a two-man power trip together, or they can collide. Or you send Brock to Raw, because that's where he was last time anyway, and Heyman now represents both champions on both shows. They could do that, especially if Brock comes back and beats Drew or something on Raw, in the rematch. That could happen as well. But when you think of Drew and Roman, I say both go into WrestleMania as champion, but maybe not both drop the belts. I mean, I know in some WrestleManias we see both champions drop it, but I'd like to see maybe Roman keep it and Drew drop it. And if that's the case, who does Drew drop it to? It could be The Fiend. By then, everybody could run the courses in their feud, and that could set up The Fiend and Drew McIntyre for WrestleMania. That's possible. Otherwise, I think it might have to be a rematch with Brock, or maybe... you guys know about my Lashley idea for SummerSlam. Maybe that's hot shotted a bit. And Lashley remains U.S. champ going into WrestleMania, and he gets a champion versus champion match against Drew McIntyre and beats him and wins the title. And then Roman keeps his. I don't know. Luckily, we have options. Both guys have multiple possibilities for a challenger. And you also have to think about this is WrestleMania, so it has to be like a WrestleMania caliber challenger. Drew McIntyre even hinted that he wants to face Roman Reigns again. And we've seen that in the past too. We saw that with John Cena and Batista and a lot of other guys, and Triple H and Brock, where they have one match at SummerSlam and there's a finish, and then they do the rematch at WrestleMania and the other guy wins. That was the case with both of those feuds. And here it's kind of the same thing, because you had Roman and Drew at Survivor Series. Roman needed a lot of help to win. Drew even said in his first promo after the match that he will see Roman again and he will beat him. Maybe it's Drew and Roman for a title unification right after 3 years after the fucking Universal belt was introduced, or 5 years, I guess. They're merging it with another title. So there's lots you can do. Rock, exactly. I think Rock was probably the likely candidate anyway prior to COVID, especially with WrestleMania supposed to be in Hollywood this year. That would have been a perfect time for The Rock to come back. And if there was no COVID, I would be putting The Rock, penciling him in against Roman Reigns. Not that it still can't happen in Tampa with a smaller audience and a virtual crowd combination deal, whatever they're looking to do here for WrestleMania. It's not like that couldn't be done, but I think it would be better in an atmosphere where you have a packed stadium and it's here in LA. That would be a better chance for The Rock to come back. So if he can hold out a year, I'd rather wait until WrestleMania 38. Yeah, I knew in recent years the two titles have both changed. Kofi and Seth at Mania, and Braun and Drew last year. The Braun and Drew one, though, Drew I think was penciled in to win, but well, I guess they both were. Because either way, Goldberg was going to be champ, and Roman was going to beat him. So yeah, either way, that was the plan for them both to drop. I was just thinking that Braun was inserted so last minute like that maybe that wasn't the original plan, but I think the original plan was for Goldberg to lose the title. McIntyre, Brock, and Lee triple threat wouldn't be bad either. Could have John Cena at WrestleMania as well. John Cena's another guy. I mean, at some point, John Cena is going to be world champion again, even if it's for a nostalgia run or if it's a quick run or something like that. I think WrestleMania might not be the best place for him to win a title like that, but he will be back and he'll beat somebody. So it'll be interesting to see when he comes back and when he wins a title again, if that will be in 2021 or if they'll hold off a whole nother year into 2022. But he came back to do the Funhouse shit with Bray last year, and that was, correct me if I'm wrong, have we seen Cena since? I don't think we have, unless he made some weird-ass appearance, but it's been a year. It's been a year of no Cena. Remember back in the day, all the people that said that WWE would be so much better if Cena died? He's been gone forever, and shit's worse than it's ever been. So y'all are dumb. Or not y'all, but the people who said that are dumb. Yeah, Cena will break Flair's record. Absolutely. He absolutely will. And I've said this for the past couple of years now. I said when Cena breaks that record, he'll win the Universal title. WWE wants his name in that legacy. If they plan to keep this title around and they don't unify it and they don't toss it in the trash can within 5 years, Cena's name has to be on that list. Brock's there. Goldberg's there. A lot of guys have already held that belt. And WWE will absolutely want Cena's name on that belt's resume. Plus, it'll be another championship that Cena hasn't won before. Randy Orton needs to win the Universal title too, which I believe he will. Yeah, you come back and win it at SummerSlam, and by then it could be anybody could be champion. By then, and whoever Cena beats, I just don't want Cena to beat a Roman, a Drew, a Lashley. Honestly, I could live with him beating Brock. I could. I could live with him beating Brock. That wouldn't bother me so much. Might have bothered me 5 years ago. Wouldn't bother me now. I just don't want Cena to beat anybody too crazy strong like that. He could come back and have a rematch with The Fiend this year. The Fiend, they could do a rematch. They could do The Fiend and John Cena again. If you think about it, that was one of the most successful things they did last year, especially at WrestleMania. And you do a sequel to that. That could be interesting too. But then again, you'd probably have to put Cena over if you did that. And I don't know. I don't want to see Cena beat The Fiend either. So as long as he doesn't beat The Fiend, Drew, Lashley, Keith Lee, Roman Reigns, nobody's super duper strong. The belt has to be on an AJ Styles or a Miz or somebody like that for Cena to come back and beat and tap out with the crossface or whatever. So that would be my hope when Cena gets back. But he'll be back and he'll be champion again. I hope Edge returns for Mania as well. Not sure the status of his injury. I think he's getting better. He's probably going to be ready to rock and roll by the time we get to WrestleMania. And I would love for him to do another, that would be cool if we didn't see him again until the Royal Rumble and he came back and returned a second time in the Royal Rumble. It won't be as, emotional and as awesome it was the first time with the packed crowd and, and all that surrounding his return. But, it might be a fun thing to do 2 years in a row for him to return twice. Oh, okay. Yeah, he had a little part in the Undertaker tribute stuff. Okay. Well, thanks for that. I kind of forgot. It's more fun speculating about next year than it was talking about tonight's Raw review or Raw show. That's a funny idea. If they do a storyline where Cena has the chance at the title and Flair is the special guest referee and Flair screws him. Again, much like Hogan taking the finger poke of doom, Ric Flair is not going to be able to get up and down off his knees like that for frequent 3 counts. I think Flair would have to just interfere and screw him somehow. But then again, what do you do? Is Flair and Cena have a match? It would be interesting to see Flair try to protect his record, but I'm not sure if it would work out based on Flair's age and physical limitations and things like that. Luigi, I'm pretty sure it was Elimination Chamber. I think they had fans at the Chamber for that. So I kind of think it's time for a women's mid-card championship. I do, but the rosters are so thin. I think a mid-card championship would absolutely be necessary if you had all of the women together. I'm not sure if it would make much sense to do that. Probably not, but I think, your women's division, if you had them all in one, competing on all 3 shows, or maybe just competing on one show specifically or something like that, a mid-card title would fit right in because you'd have all sorts of, people that could win that. But now it's I don't think the rosters can sustain another championship based on all who's there. I think it would be too much unless the only way to make it work would do what you do with the tags. It would have to be a floating title. That would give you much. And when I say floating, I mean all 3 fucking brands. So I think that would allow you more opponents, more fresh matchups, things like that. But if you put a mid-card title on Raw and only Raw, it's going to suck. I give a shit if Dana Brooke wins the women's Intercontinental title. Yeah, the only way it would work is to float. But I'm not against it. That's interesting. Again, that's Ryan Rhoda says Orton had the idea of him and Cena being tied at 16 and the winner breaks Flair's record and they both retire after. What is Orton at right now? Is he at 14 or 15 or 13? Cena is at 16, correct? One more breaks the record or the record. And then Orton, I believe, is either at 14 or 15. So I feel like he'd have to win another one. And I like the idea of them facing and the winner breaks the record. That I like. The idea of them both retiring after, I'm just kind of against anybody retiring together. The stars of that caliber, I said the same thing years ago during the end of an era Hell in the Cell match. Everybody's like, oh, Triple H and Undertaker should retire right there. I'm like, no, they're two big stars. You can't retire at the same time. You can't retire in the same match. You have to have their own special fucking moment because you worked your whole career for that, and that's what you deserve, and you deserve your own separate send-off away from everybody else. And I think Cena and Orton, with the resumes they have, even though they had very similar career paths, came in around the same time, and, were they were the Austin and Rock of their era. They were the Brett and Shawn of their era. They were the Hogan and Warrior of their era. It would be fitting in a way to have them ride off into the sunset together. But at the same time, I think they're both too big of stars to combine them. And it's better to do them separately. At least the Hall of Fames. Cena and Orton, I can't go in on the same class. Cena and Orton need to headline both of theirs. So Orton's at 14. Okay, so Orton's got to win 2 more to get tied up to Cena. That's going to be a tall order for him to pull off in the next couple years, but we'll see. Cena going for the IC title. He has not won that, correct? That belt is so ugly. He's had that run. His run with the U.S. title I thought was fun. But Cena hasn't won the IC title yet. That could be fun. I wouldn't be against it, really. All the big main eventers win the IC title. Seth and Owens and everybody. Even Triple H, after winning the title, went backwards and won the IC title there back during the 2-man power trip. Could do the same thing with Roman and Brock. You could have Brock win the Intercontinental title, and you got Brock and Roman, as the 2-man power trip, and then you put the tag belts on them too, with Heyman in the middle. What if you could get that match with everybody in their prime? Roman Brock with Heyman against Triple H and Austin with McMahon. Who you got? They both have to be in their prime. It's got to be 01 Austin and Triple H against 2020 Roman and Brock. Who you got? That'd be a good Twitter poll. Cena versus Big E at SummerSlam for the IC title? Maybe. That's going to, if Big E wins the title Friday, that means he's going to have to hold the Intercontinental title for over 8 months. And I think he should, just like I think Bobby Lashley should hold on to the U.S. title for 8 years. It's just not something WWE does anymore. Nobody has long runs. Triple H's team easy? That's easy? Well, Brock and Roman are pretty badass. And that Roman Reigns and Triple H confrontation would be fun. Those two versions of those guys, Austin and Brock, would be pretty awesome too. Yeah, Life of Brandon. I wish WWE should listen to our show here just so they can read these ideas in the chat and listen to me and come up with ideas. They'll be fine. Ratings problems over. That's an old school triple threat. Orton, Cena, Edge. I don't know how they incorporate Cena into that, but they could. They've both had some wars with each other. That's for sure. Yeah, I know we get those sometimes. Bayley held her title for a year. AJ held the belt for a year. But in general, especially with the mid-card titles, you never see it. When was the last long U.S. title run we got? Even Cena didn't take it very long. The last long one we got, I think, was actually MVP. Like a super long one. That's why I think Lashley is in the perfect position just to, hold the belt and hold it and stay dominant. Don't escape matches with the title. Don't keep, getting lucky in every single match where you're able to keep the title just on a fluke. Don't keep it on a fluke. Keep it on definitive finishes. Just go out there and beat everybody. Full Nelson every motherfucker that gets in your way. And just keep winning. And just keep winning to where WWE has no choice to give you a title shot instead of worrying about you winning some stupid match to qualify for a match that then gives you the title shot. Just build somebody. Build them up strong to where you say, they need to face the champion. I don't know why that's so impossible for them. It's like the hardest thing in the world for them to do. Oh, yeah, Mox had the title. That's right. Moxley had the title for a long time. But again, when was that? 2012? I mean, come on. I mean, it's been a long time. Like these long title runs, what my point is, aren't often. I know they've happened, but they're not frequent. We're back in the day. Like, think back in the day in the 80s. You had Macho Man Randy Savage holding the Intercontinental title for like 14 months, a long time. He dropped the title to Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. Literally a month later, Steamboat then passed the title off to Honky, who held it for another 14 or 15 months. So you only had, two Intercontinental champion, two Intercontinental champions holding the title for longer than a year, and they were pretty much back to back because Steamboat had to, go take time off, and they put it on Honky, and the two of them held the belt forever, and that was a common thing back in the 80s. Hell, even Shawn, because after Honky would have gone to Warrior, Rude, Warrior, then they had the tournament, and then it went to Perfect. He held the belt for a long time too. Then it went to Brett. He had two runs that spanned about a year, if you combine them. And then he ran into Shawn Michaels. Or when did Shawn win the belt? Brett dropped it to Bulldog. Bulldog dropped it to Shawn. So that would have been 92. And then Shawn, I think, kept the Intercontinental title all the way through the year. I know he had one hiccup with it in 93 where he dropped it to Jannetty on Raw and then immediately won it back, like at a house show 2 days later. So he was interrupted there, but he kept that title after he beat the Bulldog all the way through the end of the year. He had the Survivor Series match with Brett, which was awesome, but it was non-title. Into the Royal Rumble, where he survived his match with Marty Jannetty. Into WrestleMania, where he survived his match with Tatanka. Into King of the Ring, where he survived his match with Crush. Into SummerSlam, where he survived his match with Perfect. And the only reason he lost the belt was because he got suspended for a drug test or something, and they had to strip him of the belt, and that's when he came back and they did the double belt thing at WrestleMania 10 with Razor Ramon. So Shawn had a super long run. If you don't count that, I think it was June or something. It was like the summer of 93. Dropped it in the Manhattan Center to Jannetty with help from Perfect and then won it right back. So Shawn held the belt for a long time too. And that was a regular thing, that helped build a lot of these stars' legacies. So I think Lashley is in position to do that. And I don't see why it would be so hard just to treat one section of your roster or one storyline or angle or character like you did back in the day and just see what happens. What's wrong with that? So knowing WWE, Lashley won't be U.S. champ by the end of fucking January. But if it was up to me, I'd keep the belt on him for a super, super long time. Thank you, Storm Adam, for the $2 and the retracted message. But I appreciate it. Oh, Adam says Brock and Roman would steamroll Hunter and Steve. Steve was kind of nearing the end of his run around this time, so he wasn't, prime Steve, but I think Triple H was prime Triple H. He was in ridiculous shape. And Austin was still Austin, Yeah, I think in a real fight, they might get beat, but yeah, Walter and Kaylee Ray too. But again, you got to factor in COVID there. But Walter's another guy that I think should just hold the belt forever. But had the pandemic not hit, I think he might have maybe dropped it by now. Maybe not. They were off for a while. I know they're back in action now, but they were out for a while. Have Cena come back and start the NWO. How great would that be? Who would he get to be in his NWO? If he was the Hogan, you got to have two outsiders coming in. Like big ones, it would have to be like Jericho and Cody or something, like coming in. Maybe not Jericho, he's too old. It'd have to be like Cody and who the fuck else? Omega and Page or something like that, like Hangman Page and Kenny Omega or somebody like that. Two big stars jumping from AEW, coming to the WWE, doing what the outsiders did, sitting in the crowd and shit like that, and then have a big match against three guys at a pay-per-view and have Cena come out and turn heel and cut the promo. This is the future of wrestling, and we're the new world order, the NNWO. It might be fun. Why not? Yeah, honestly, if I had, I'd probably pick Roman and Brock too, just based on their badassness. Oh, and I know Austin regrets working with Brock. I think he stands by his reasoning behind it, but I think the way he handled everything, and walking out and losing a year of his career only to come back and retire immediately after, I really feel like we didn't get Austin. I felt like after he came back, he was heel, and he was heel for that long run there, all in 2001 through the Invasion, and then he briefly turned back into a babyface at the end of the year, and then went into 2002 to work WrestleMania, and then walked out, and then, he didn't come back till the following year, and he had one match. Well, I guess technically two. The Bischoff match counts, but had the match with The Rock, and he was done. It's a shame. Yeah, Balor and Rollins. WWE would have to do somebody internally, like actual outsiders wouldn't work. So maybe a couple guys from NXT or a couple people returning or something like that. It would just have to be recognizable faces, somebody that could be a presence, be shown on camera, sitting in the crowd, something like that. I'm like, what the hell are they doing here? And then, Cena's the mastermind behind it and whatever, but we'll see. Those Xia Li and Boa segments are weird. I don't know what's going on there. Much like Randy Orton beating The Fiend, it doesn't seem like any of that is legal to like torture somebody and put them through hell and make their hands and knuckles bleed and beat the shit out of them. I don't know if the cameraman, can he not call 911? I don't know what's going on. Ooh, Undisputed Era. That could be good. But then, Cena would have to be the leader of them, and Adam Cole, I don't know if he'd take a back seat or not. I like Undisputed Era. I'm glad Kyle O'Reilly and Balor are getting a chance to do it again. I think Balor will retain again, but that was a badass match the first time they faced. So them to do it again, just please don't break anyone's jaw this time and don't fuck each other up. Hell yeah, Crush. I loved TLC last night. I thought it was a great pay-per-view. Great match, especially Kevin Owens. Just fucking awesome performance. Awesome performance. All right. Well, anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up. I went 2 hours tonight. That's pretty good. I did not think we would squeeze a 2-hour stream out of the material we had to go through tonight because Raw would just sucked ass. But it was fun kind of contemplating and thinking about what we could see in 2021. And hopefully we'll be in for a much better year than we were in 2020. If you guys can still do me a favor, on your way out the door, can you smash the thumbs up button for me and give me a few likes? I would really, really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm not going to be back until Saturday. We're going to be back up here on Saturday for a fun Patreon-sponsored stream. It's going to be a little bit later in the night, most likely. Actually, I'm not sure the time yet. It might be normal Winged Eagle time, actually, at like 3 o'clock. I got to check my schedule, but that's going to be on Saturday. So keep a lookout for that. But that means you're not going to see me prior to the Christmas holiday. So for those of you who celebrate Christmas, you got that coming up in a couple of days. I want to wish everybody a happy holidays and just have a great week, whatever you're doing. I know this year is different. COVID. A lot of people aren't with their families right now doing virtual Zoom Christmases and shit like that. Whatever you're doing, I hope it's not too boring or too lonely for you, and I hope you're able to at least spend some time with family and friends and be able to enjoy the holidays somewhat in the face of these ridiculous circumstances that we're in. So I just want to wish all of you the best, and thanks for making this, under the circumstances, a really fun year despite everything, and I think we helped keep each other sane a lot during a lot of this stuff. So please have a very, very happy holidays and Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. And I will be back up here the day after Christmas on the 26th, like I said, this coming Saturday, and we'll have a really fun live stream to get into. So y'all take care. Appreciate it. Be good.